Each year I get many questions about how to market apprenticeships to employers. I've worked in the education sector for many years, but let me just go back a step or two and explain that in the past I've been an employer and I have employed apprentices. In fact, it's true to say I was a very typical SME, a business owner employing just a small number of people. Since then, however, I've been a senior manager in the education sector. I've also worked in large businesses and have been head of press, publicity and marketing for a large government agency. Today I'm a consultant, and it's in that capacity as a marketing consultant I'm talking to you now. Before we think about why businesses should take apprentices and how to market the apprenticeship scheme to them, let's first of all think about the purpose of business. Not every business is a large industrial complex, but the majority are commercial and they're there to make a profit. Of course, there are other types of organisation out there that may take apprentices. Charities are just one of them. Their objective is to achieve their charitable aims, whatever they may be. Of course, their charitable aims may be many and varied. And then of course we have quangos, non-governmental organisations with a whole range of objectives. For example, those in the NHS, hospitals, ambulance services, etc. have a primary purpose of healing the sick. The Royal Mail, as I record this, is now being privatised, but its job was to deliver letters. There are other quangos out there with a role to create jobs, but none of them have the distinct objective of employing apprentices per se. So why would a business employ an apprentice? There are of course many reasons. It may be to solve a particular problem brought about by a skills gap or a skills shortage. It might be that they're thinking about succession of the workforce. If members of your workforce are retiring in 3 or 4 years' time, it makes perfect sense to take on an apprentice at this time to replace them. It may be that the employer wants new ideas brought into the business. They could of course go out and recruit people already working in the sector, or they could bring in new people, apprentices, to generate those new ideas that will keep their business going. Apprentices of course are also very flexible, but whatever the reason, it will be to achieve the business objectives of that particular business. As stated earlier, these can be profit for either the owner or the shareholders. In charitable terms, it will be the charitable objectives, and quangos have a whole range of business objectives they wish to achieve. So there are a lot of reasons why an employer would want to employ an apprentice, but there are also many problems they perceive. One of the biggest of these is the financial issue. How much will it cost them to employ an apprentice? How long will it take them to get their money back? Are there any upfront costs? Employers are likely to ask a substantial number of financial questions, but it doesn't end there. Most employers will have a number of legislation questions that they'll be concerned about. They'll range from HR to health and safety to salaries to training. The fact that apprenticeships are largely about training brings another concern. Employers aren't geared up to train in most cases. This means that an in-depth discussion is required around the whole area of training, their responsibilities and your responsibilities. Most of the perceived problems come about due to a lack of understanding. And once we can get employers to understand more about apprenticeships, they're far more likely to employ. So how do we overcome negative perceptions of apprenticeships? First of all, we need to understand what business is there to do. As I said earlier, this may well be around profits, charitable aims and objectives, etc. We then need to get them to understand where we're also coming from. In fact, what you really need to do is build a rapport with the employer. This is much easier when you have existing employers out there working as ambassadors for the whole notion of apprenticeships and you as an apprenticeship provider. They're able to use word of mouth marketing for you, extol the virtues of apprenticeships, demonstrate via case studies how profitable and effective apprenticeships can be for small businesses, And lastly, we need to think about and answer all those perceived problems that the employer may ask. A final way to overcome negative perceptions is to allow the employer to get involved in either a taster or trial apprenticeship run. Certainly in my own case, when I took on my first apprentice, I took them on a week's trial just to get a feel for what apprenticeships were about, how they would work, and whether or not I could work with this particular apprentice and he could work with me. It turns out that my apprentice and I got on extremely well, and he made a major contribution to my business for a long time.
Now it's over to you. What's your next move? If you would like a strategy meeting where we can discuss your existing traditional and digital strategies, or if you'd like your teams to be trained in marketing, then we can help. Each year I run a number of open courses for education conference providers across the UK. I also come into colleges and do internal training sessions. For example, I'll come in and spend a whole day with your marketing team where we'll look at all the new developments in marketing, or indeed to help your team understand all aspects of marketing. We run a one-day course that goes through everything from traditional to digital marketing that helps each member of the team understand where they fit in your overall marketing strategy. We also run a number of mentoring programs, both for managers and directors that aspire to greater things, and for lower level staff that want to take their first steps onto the management ladder. So, if we can help you with your next step, please make contact with me now. You can find my details on the providermastermind.com site, on our other education websites, or indeed through LinkedIn. I look forward to hearing from you.